And what's come out of that has been even more awful. Because what they did was Joseph of Arimathea, of Palestine, Mary's uncle, got the bunch of them out. Now, he had a lot of trafficking because he was involved with, I think it was gold, wasn't it? With gold mines? Yeah, he was like the Ministry of Mines of Rome.
Tin and Cornwall as well.
Tin and Cornwall? Okay. Because he had had connections to England and also to France, because they went to France first. Joseph of Arimathea got them into France. And there was a group, they had, they talk about getting sucker punched. There was a group of Cathars. The Cathars of France were portions of the, like what became the Cathars of France, were some of the Jesheua 12 lineage people that had been, moved around. We didn't just leave them all in the Holy Land. We had to put them at different areas. They were put at gate 12, which is Montsegur in France. That's where the original Cathars started. Well, before we had full-blown Cathars, we had gene lines being filtered up into this direction. Okay, we had our Grail lines there. We had our Gate 12 Grail lines there from the beginning. They were always there because Gate 12 is Montsegur, France. So we would have Tribe 12 people there. The Tribe 12 Grail lines would be there, and so would the root races be there. Well, the Arimathea, Joseph of Arimathea, brought the Hyksos, Jesus, into the 12 tribes regions of France, and at first was able to pass him off as the other Jeshua, because people weren't in like active open communication with each other. So he was taken in, and they created a following there. This is where you had, before the Cathars even became officially called Cathars, you had the Cathar divide. There was part of the Essene divide. You had a group in a Grail line, an Antichristos Hyksos Grail line, that came up living in the same spaces as the Grail lines that went with Tribe 12. Now, later, Jesheua 12's descendants, one of them, came and was brought in to bring up the Tribe 12 lineage again, because it had been contaminated by the Hyksos, the Hyksos Jesheua. So, out of France, you have two movements building. You have the Cathars, and Cathar was just like Cathara, healing. It was originally spelled with a K. It referred to Cathara, light, sound, one. That's what the word meant. It got changed into Cathari with a C, and this had to do with not just the Hyksos, but also the Dracs getting in on the act. You also had, during this period, the beginnings of what became Draconian Christianity, as opposed to Anunnaki Christianity. So you had the Bible stories, the stories coming up from this chaos that came out of the two Jeshuas and the lineage moving into France. It moved from France and then spread into England and into other places. It seeded the Templar quest and the Arimathea agenda. It was seeded through Joseph of Arimathea and through Jesheua 9 and Mary and Joseph, who were the parents of Jesheua 9. This was a betrayal of the Emerald Covenant. The people who were representing the Christos teachings kind of got knocked in the head again. But the drama continued. But this is, what became of this was very interesting, because by 325 AD, a couple hundred years after all this was taking place, the Draconians got in on the picture. The Hyksos were making so much advancement by putting out their records, by combining it with the records from the past and putting the Jesheua 9 story out as if it were the real story, and hiding and destroying any records that were existing on Jesheua 12 and, the true Miriam and, John the Baptist. They changed names. They took certain stories that took place here and they changed the order of this person was first and that person was second, as far as, birth times. For instance, they put John the Baptist as almost in a similar, time frame, age bracket as Jeshua, and he wasn't. He was much, much older. So they doctored the documents, the historical documents, got rid of what didn't serve them. They were doing really, really well, and that really, really upset the Draconian mob over in Rome. So the Draconian mob over in Rome decided to take all of this new information, this new Christ period stuff, and make their own version of it. And they combined it with the Olympian god stuff that they had taken from the Anunnaki originally. They had taken over some of that. They were using that to control the Roman people, the Roman empires. They combined it, and what used to be the Olympian gods became saints instead. So they renamed them. They made them saints, okay? You couldn't have Olympian gods anymore. You could have saints. They decided this was a good bandwagon to jump on. And the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD brought together Pharisees, Sadducees, people from, like people in control of large groups where they had to deal with this problem about what do we do with the records? We might not like each other, but we all have one common interest to make sure we win when the stellar activation cycle comes. So there was a book assimilated and created out of editing, twisting, and taking most of the guts out of the historical records. They used some of our records, they used some of the falsified records, these are the parts that will be compatible with the Qumran stuff, the Dead Sea Scroll stuff. And they created what we call the Bible. And as we know, the history from there has been absolute chaos, where the draconian, now what's interesting too, is you had the draconian versions, the draconian Leviathan races, which were became the Knights Gnosis, the Knights Malta. They became the push behind Catholicism. Then you had the Hyksos lines that became the push behind Protestantism. This is where you have the division between Catholic and Protestant. It's Dragon Anunnaki, as usual. It's like humans just never fit into this history here. We're watching wars go on between people who don't even belong here in the first place, and the people who do belong here think they're a part of it, and they don't know how to step outside of it because their own history is gone. So that leads us up to the point where we are here.